audience, and welcome to another session of Ed Talks. I am Andrea Ferrari, CEO of Whole Schools International, and we have created this innovative space to inspire conversation with education experts and education opinion leaders to discuss the trends in education and how education is transforming during these unprecedented times. At the onset of the pandemic, Whole Schools went out in search for a solution and a service that would keep well-being at the heart of learning. And we were very lucky to become connected to School Day in Finland. Today, we bring for you our guest of honor, Sampo Loki, Vice President of School Day Finland, as well as Gabriela Gonzalez Pacheco, our Programs Director at Whole Schools, to have a discussion about well-being in education and how this all began in Finland. Welcome, Sampo, and happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thanks very much. Glad to be here and honored to be a part of your series. My name is Sampo Loki, and as Andrea mentioned, Vice President of School Day, responsible of the partnerships and sales, and also globalization, as we know, the well-being is a global phenomenon, and importance and of well-being is known to be needed all over the world and in schools in order for students to learn. So that's what we're doing.
Excellent, Sampo. And we want you to talk to us a little bit about how this movement got started in Finland, because we know that there has been much ground already traveled, and you can tell us a little bit about how it was initiated.
Yes, thanks. School Day was founded 3 years ago, and the first idea was actually to build a student information system. That's sort of the background of the people who founded School Day had, and the idea was to create something modern, something that would serve digitalization and digital tools in school. But very soon after the beginning, there was a lot of discussion about student well-being, social emotional learning in Finland, and the founders of School Day, they started thinking that maybe there's something that we can actually do and help with. And in Finland, there has been a yearly survey in student well-being connected with 25 consecutive years, and there's a huge data and huge amount of research behind the well-being and the importance of well-being in learning, and that was sort of the foundation, and that School Day started thinking that could we somehow utilize that data, the amount of data, and then turn student well-being the everyday business, and then could we start monitoring students on real-time basis rather than just once a year well-being survey. And that's basically where we started.
Yeah, thank you. Yes. So yes, you talked a little bit about the research and how that is actually based, and it's what supports the surveys that the children are answering to, and it's creating a great impact in the way that we are now keeping well-being at the heart of learning. There is no learning without well-being. My colleague Gabriela knows that emotions are the gatekeepers of cognition. Emotions are the ones that are responsible for our engagement, our motivation. And certainly we have learned with School Day and our experience in Mexico, when we prioritize emotions, real learning happens. There is no learning without well-being. And Gabby, you wanted to discuss one of the case studies that we experienced together at the onset of the pandemic. Yes?
Yeah, basically, I think we've been seeing how this movement towards well-being has been happening, but at the same time, Sampo, I think some educators are still not completely convinced on how important it is to work for well-being. Could you please share with us a little bit of that experience? What has it been throughout these 3 years working with students in this area and how it has benefited them and the schools?
That's a very good point and very good sort of remark. I think one of the reasons that well-being is not part of the curriculum. It's not part of those sort of subjects that you teach in the school. So well-being is sort of considered being not the school's problem or not the school's issue to solve, where we see that and then we understand that it's exactly the one thing that needs to be sort of fixed in the school before we can actually concentrate on the more important things that need to be considered and concentrating for. For example, I mean, we all know that if things are, even in our adult life or work life, if there are some concerns in our life, we cannot concentrate on working. We're not very productive in those days that we are sort of solving family crisis or whatever. So it's exactly the same thing with the students. And so, but on the other hand, when I discussed with a lot of schools around the world, there isn't a single educator who would say that this is not an important issue or it's not something that shouldn't be taken into consideration. So I think that it's more about how we create a market, how we create that kind of atmosphere, and how and where we position well-being in schools' curriculums in order for us to be able to get into schools and get the awareness, the understanding to the educators and to the school leaders. I think those are the most important things.
I think there's that was a great remark about raising awareness with the school leaders. Also, one of the ways that School Day has done that is through the impressive model that it's fundamented on. Can you tell us a little bit more, Sampo, about that model and the different dimensions created by?
Yeah. Thanks. That model is as explained. It's based on the Finnish and then 25 years of research. And what we've done with the model is we've sort of taken all these modern new ideas. So for example, using OECD model of social emotional learning, and we found that there are actually 4 key areas in student well-being, school well-being, and those are the learning, social emotional skills, and social relationships, and then physical well-being. So we based the model on those 4 themes, and then underneath all these themes, there are phenomena, indicators that are building data towards the entire student well-being, and that model, as I said, it's proven to be, and then the great findings that we have already from this spring and from this year, before and after, during the COVID-19, is that we found out that this model is actually, we've researched our data and on our answers from students from Finland, US, UK, and Australia, and we found out that actually this model applies universally. So there are similarities, correlations are exactly the same in different countries in different parts of the world. So we can really say that we found out that we have a universal model which can be used in all the different parts of the world, which is amazing. And the other thing I think that's important is that what we found out from the data already is that social emotional learning is key element. There's a strong correlation with physical well-being. So the importance of social emotional learning in schools, getting those, I mean, they're not easy things to teach, and it's not a walk in the park to try to get those sort of ideas in the school and take the school and give school teachers responsibility to teach these difficult social emotional skills. But it's proven that the students do feel better physically also when social emotional learning is in order, and they improve their social emotional skills.
Yes.
I have another question, Sampo, leading back to the teachers and what they're doing once they once they receive all these findings and they learn about how the children are feeling, how they're faring emotionally, socially, academically. Can you talk to us a little bit about how school day is not just a solution, but it provides more of a whole service to the school, to the leaders, to the teachers?
Yeah, we call it. There's actually two aspects. For teachers, we call that we want to create a pedagogical cycle where we collect the data, we analyze it with the help of AI. We provide schools and teachers information, understanding, analytics on the student well-being, but we just don't want to leave it at that. Based on the analytics, we then provide them lesson plans and tools to really intervene, to make the difference and make the change. And the good thing and the beautiful part is that we can actually measure it. Because it's an ongoing loop of feedback loop. So we can measure, we can see the change, and there are different levels to that. One is that the students are already feeling better when they are asked the questions, when they can actually give a voice, they think about those questions, they discuss about the questions with each other. So creating the awareness of well-being is as important as the analytics as we see it. And also with that, what we want to provide is we want to provide the tools for the leadership teams and for the principals to be able to compare in a holistic and the larger scale and understanding the data and the correlation between different classes, different age groups in schools, and even district leaders. We can help municipalities because we can compare the schools. We can find out which areas have different which problems and challenges, so that we can. And what is sort of our goal is to be able to help the decision makers, the leaders, to teachers, to create and allocate resources where it's needed. Because we all know that the resources are scarce, and the teachers, we need to be able to provide them understanding how to create better pedagogical solutions for their students. So in a way, what we try to do is we collect a lot of data, but that's not just it. We use and analyze the data in order to improve the well-being and social emotional learning in schools.
Fantastic, Sampo. One of the things that Gabby and I are really impressed with, and maybe Gabby can comment a little bit about that, is how impactful in the short term providing the school-based solution has been in the cases that we have led in Mexico, to the point where we've seen how even in a span of a few weeks, those interactions have proactively changed and shifted the feeling of the whole group, of the whole class. And Gabby, I know that we've been approached lately by governmental agencies in order to procure this service at the level of the public system. Do you want to maybe mention a little bit about how school day is, as Sampo said, a universal solution? It doesn't matter, what range and what is the profile of the school.
Yes, I for one, first of all, I really want to express the appreciation and gratefulness, because during the pandemic, and I think it was a very difficult time for teachers and for students, just schools in general were very, very highly impacted. And then School Day made the tool available for free to different schools. And that just, I think that was amazing. That's when we found out about it. And it's true, as Andrea says, I understand that somebody might think, well, this is true of one culture or one country, but it's not true, because when we work in education, we know that kids are kids, and the universal way that their development is to carry on, and the elements that are impacting their health and their interactions, they're universal. So yes, the experience that we had here with Andrea and I in whole schools, it was amazing to be able to have a tool at such a moment where definitely, the social emotional well-being of students was being really hurt by all of the quarantine and losing the contact with their classmates, all of this. And yes, as Andrea said, the experience that we had is the more that we talked with heads of school in different parts of the world, they were all sharing the same concerns and they were going through the same things. So this tool was truly universal. So what I would ask is, from School Day's perspective and you making this tool, this very valuable tool available to others, what was your feedback from the different schools that were able to take advantage of such an amazing tool?
It's a good question, and that's something that we've been discussing a lot. Obviously, during that time when everything changed and the schools had to begin remote learning and all, it was very chaotic in schools, and implementing something new at the same time is not easy, and then. So we have a little bit of mixed sort of feedback and feelings about the success. But on the other hand, what happened now when the new school year started, there's a lot of good feedback, and then we've sort of gained those customers that those schools that were using School Day in spring have started again, and they've really found the value now because the schools have adopted and they understand that this is some kind of a new normal. The schools are also much more better prepared for this kind of studying remotely and studying in different environment than just what we used to. So in that sense, but then at the same time, they found that the value of the data and the value of and the meaning of understanding the student well-being in these sort of stable circumstances is even more important. So that's definitely something that also pushed us and at School Day to work harder and to develop our solution. And it's more and more what we're doing is going towards being a service rather than a solution. We just don't want to be that sort of unique application on the phone or the application on the web. We want to be a service. We want to be able to say that with use of School Day, with use of our program, our service, you actually can make a difference in the school. And that's our end goal, not just the measuring, not just the data or analytics.
That's fantastic, Sampo. That is the end goal, how you're transforming education. And this impact is not only seen in the short, but the long term in how our societies will change and how the world will actually change. And that's very inspiring. Also, I'd really love for our viewing audience if you could comment on how School Day has been constantly adapting to, and I find this to be amazing, how you so quickly adapt to the comments. You're so user-friendly, and you were able to do that when schools went into the remote sort of online, even curating the survey and the whole experience to be fine-tuned to what was being lived by the students and the schools. Could you comment a little bit about those upgrades that are constantly being done?
Yeah, I said, I mean, at the end of the day, even having a strong pedagogical background and understanding of digital, we don't know what schools need, and we don't know what different schools need. We need to be able to listen to the schools. We need to be able to listen to users, teachers around the world, and for that we are creating communities, and we're trying to get them. And again, it's not just about our solution or our improvements. It's more about how do we implement, how do we introduce well-being and the importance of social-emotional learning in the schools in this time, and how it's sort of, it should be privileged for all the students to be able to go through this kind of transformation change mentally, that well-being is the most important thing in their school life in order for them to be learning and to do and to get in the next phases. We all know that STEM subjects they are very important. I'm a mathematics teacher myself, but still I'm preaching about well-being and the importance of well-being, because we know that there's no mathematics without well-being. So that's why this is sort of even more important in a way, and then we just have to find out the way to implement this and to find our way to schools, so that we can sort of compete with that very sort of scarce and very, very little time that there is. We know the schools are busy and the students are very busy with the subjects and then the schoolwork. So we're not there to provide something extra. What we want to provide is we want to provide something that will support both the teachers and students and then the principals. So not adding something instead of that to be able to help and support.
Thanks, Sampo. That's great. Mathematics with compassion. It reminded me of your colleagues at Eduten, another great solution in Finland. I was thinking a little bit about what would be your advice for a school that wants to start with school day. Is there a right time to start, Sampo? I mean, give us a little bit of the background of how the process can be lived. What are the steps? How does it work?
There is no wrong time to start. Let me say that. I mean, the sooner the better. But we've sort of designed our service so that it can be, and then we sort of divided our school year into what we call the different sprints, or we want to schedule school day as part of the school year, so that we know that we need time for the change. So what we've done, we tried to schedule the school day usage so that we would be collecting the data at first, and then and this is another part that we have for the school day. We always educate and train our teachers, so we don't want to leave the schools alone. So with using the school day, you always get online training along the way when data gets collected and when the analytics start showing in the application and the service. Then we provide more and more awareness and more information for the teachers. We're working together with Microsoft. We're providing a free online course at the Microsoft Educator Center for our customers, and basically any teacher in the world who wants to join in and just take the course and understand more about well-being. So it can be started in the beginning of certain period, or in beginning of the year, school year, and right in the middle of school year. So it doesn't really matter. But what we do provide when we start, we always provide this sort of schedule for the schools so that they can utilize school day at its sort of best.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. As you said, you need time for well-being changes are not going to happen overnight. So providing schedules and looking at it as a cycle and different times to start and stop and then remeasure, because as we know, the things we can measure, we can manage, and then we can prioritize and work from there. Gabriela, do you want to maybe mention in your experience, some schools onboarded the solution during the pandemic, and now it's again the start of a new school year, how you have seen that working remotely or back in the school building? Do you think that there will be a significant difference on how the services and the solution is applied?
Yeah, I think what I appreciated most from the tool sample is that unlike other programs where you have like this fixed content, which is assigned maybe to different grade levels, and then, the school will work through these topics, which is great to do that. However, in this case, you're taking the diagnostic as your starting place. So, yes, what we saw, working with schools here in Mexico that implemented it was just how quickly kids would respond to that. And it was just, I think for teachers, was very rewarding to be able to see how once you know what's going on, and maybe you were thinking that you had to work with them on, maybe handling their emotions, and it had to do more with autonomy skills for learning, which was causing the anxiety, which no matter how much you address the anxiety, if you don't help them get the autonomy skills ready, well, it's not going to work. So I think that's something that really made me appreciate it a lot more, especially because schools, as I said, they know that we need to work towards well-being. This is a trend. It's something we've realized that it's important, some more than others. But I think in this case, it takes a leap forward because it goes beyond that and just starts with the student's reality, and from there allows the teacher. And I think, as far as I know, you're working on being able to connect resources for the teachers from the results and the findings, correct?
Yeah, yes, we are introducing lesson plans and all kind of material targeted for those specific challenges that we found out and analyzed from the data.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. That's just because then they have the tool, that they have identified the problem, which is specific to those kids at that moment with whatever it is that is going on with them, and then having a solution there, which they might already kind of know, but this one is completely, as you said, targeted to them. So, yeah.
I think one important thing to mention, let's not forget the basis of the data that is collected is anonymous. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and why that would be important?
Yes, that's a very good point. All the research implies and implies that if you want to make a change and a cultural change, that's what we're aiming for, is a cultural change in schools. And if we want to make a cultural change in schools and classrooms, we need to be able to support the entire classes, groups, and schools. So it's just not enough to pinpoint and then profile students and say, okay, you have this kind of problems. We need to be able to provide and support teachers in group level to change the atmosphere, to change the school learning environment and then the school cultures. And that's why, based on research, we've ended up with the solution that we don't want to profile, we don't want to identify the problems in certain students, rather collect the data and analyze it on a group level. And also maybe the most important feedback that we've got from our clients, the students, have been that they feel safe and secure answering the questions because they know that it's anonymous, and they know that they can be truthful about their feelings, which is the most important thing.
Oh, that is such a relief, because one thing we do want to always safeguard is the identity of the child, and making them feel safe and secure. That's right to the point. Finally, to finalize, Sampo, would you say that this works with a certain age group better than others? How does the solution embark on the whole school experience?
That's an important an interesting question as well. I mean, we have the similar model, and that's something that we've also been able to prove from the data that we already collected, is that it really works from grade one, from the students who can read. Actually, we have some students who don't know how to read, and they are using they're replying the question with their parents, and all the way up to high school students. And we even have one or two universities as our clients as well. And the importance of the data and the importance of the feedback is actually different for different age groups and different levels. So that the teachers and then the schools, when they get the data, that we help them to analyze, then the AI helps them to analyze the data in a way that is suitable for their age group. And for example, the older students, they require less of the teacher's impact and interventions. They are actually changing the world and changing their well-being on their own. They're discussing about it together. They are making it, and that's why we provide, for example, straight feedback also for the students. So they do get analytics as well, not just the teachers. So we have clients, and we've proven through research that it actually does work from 8 to 20-year-olds.
That's fantastic. What a wholesome solution, and great awareness of looking at all the different needs at the different age levels, and how we can start with the very young to actually create an impact and to safeguard the well-being and the happiness of our students. Sampo, we couldn't thank you enough for being here today, for enriching us and enlightening us and inspiring those school leaders out there that are hearing us to
thank you very much.
To follow this this trend and actually make a change in the world. Thank you so much, Gabby, for your insights. And we'll see you again in our next series. A big hug to all of you.